Alright, it's good practice to loosen the knob on the chamber door after you've drawn an initial vacuum before you walk away. Make sure that the door is available to pop open when you're done, or to make sure you don't have it tight when you're under vacuum. If you vent with the knob tight, it'll be next to impossible to loosen it after you've vented. So we see we're getting close down to the millitor range, and if we look at our data logger, take a look here, we'll see that our retransmit for the vacuum is matching here. The retransmit in the torr range, and we haven't gotten down to the millitor yet, but we're going to be there pretty soon. Back over here. So the blinking light on the turbo controller is just showing us that it's not running yet. It's just standing by. So we have to finish roughing out the chamber before the turbo turns off. The automation that controls the valving also needs to rough out the back of the turbo if it's not already roughed out. In our case, the turbo is still under vacuum. The back end of the turbo is at 185 millitorr right now. It only needs to be less than 2 torr to start the turbo, so the sequence should commence rapidly as soon as the chamber is under vacuum. As I said before, we can look at the we can page through using the arrow keys on the turbo controller to see what the speed is. So you can see it has not started. It's still at 0, no drive current. So we'll come back to this. We'll leave it on the speed setting so we can watch that go on. Okay, we've gotten low enough for the second gauge to start reading, and it goes into scientific notation. So this one's going to have to get to, the chamber has to get below 200 millitorr before the rest of the sequence starts. So depending upon your gas load, that could take 10-15 minutes. We have a timer in our automation that's about 25 minutes if we don't get into high vac. You could get a high vacuum alarm or a low vacuum alarm, I guess. It just usually just means that you took too long, and the easiest thing to do is just to stop the vacuum system and restart it to restart the timer if you're sure that there's no faults, you don't have any leaks or anything like that. Something that we have up here is that we have these set points at the top here. We're only using set point 1 and set point 2. Set point 2 is the backfill set point, which is at 500 torr on the first gauge, and then set point 1 is the 200 millitorr, which is for gauge 2. So as soon as set point 1 here is engaged, arrow pointing down, is when the next cycle in the automation is going to continue. And we'll notice on the data logger that you can see that gauge 1 there has bottomed out, and now gauge 2 is reading, and so that sort of thing is going to continue. Once we go into high vac, the first one is bottomed out, now this one's reading, then this one's going to, when this gets to the right set point, it'll turn on the third gauge, and then this one eventually will bottom out when the turbo kicks in. And that's how we can cover all 3 ranges. So now here. Okay, so I heard the click. Set point 1's engaged. So the chamber is roughed enough. The automation sequence is checking that the turbo back is good, and now we'll see that it's now said, okay, the turbo's ready to start, so it's started the turbo. We'll see that the turbo's winding up. If we look at the current. We can see how much current the turbo is drawing, which is an indicator of gas load. So we have a little timer that engages after we tell the turbo to start, before we open the gate valve and expose the turbo to the chamber. And then after that, it just spins up to full speed. And the next thing to see would be when the high vac gauge will turn on, and that will automatically turn on when gauge number 2 gets down to the predefined limit. I just heard the gate valve open, so vacuum should be going on real fast now. And it's going under high vac. Okay, we see here that our turbo has started up. It's coming up to speed. The high voltage is turned on for the high vac gauge. So now we're in high vac. The gate valve has opened. If we take a sneak peek right over here, we'll see that now high vac light is on, which means the gate valve is open and the turbo is running. So if we want to stop the cycle and open the chamber, let's take a look at our control panel here. So all we need to do is get the camera to work. So go ahead and stop our vacuum cycle. All we do is just hit the stop button, and that'll close the gate valve and tell the turbo to start spinning down. And then at that point you can choose manual backfill, where you'll have to hold the button all the way, or you can hit auto backfill and it'll automatically backfill to 500 torr. So let's press stop. So at this point the chamber just stays under whatever vacuum it was at, and actually we can probably see that. Looking over here, you can see it's still under -5's vacuum. And then let's demonstrate the auto backfill. So if we just press auto, that just says in auto now. And then we watch the vacuum over here, we'll see it's going to come up. It turned the high vac gauge off automatically. And it's going to backfill to 500 torr, probably overshoot a little. And we want to make sure the knob is loose on the door, which it is. Remember, that was set point 2 on the controller there. So there it goes, it stopped, about 554. Then, to continue the rest of the way, we just press and hold the manual backfill button. If we hold that, which isn't much to look at, but the chamber will automatically backfill. I can actually show you over here. Now I'll push the button again. And you swing your handle out of the way. And our chamber is vented. There we go. So now we can take a look inside. So you can see in here that down below, underneath the bottom shelf, lift this up, is the main temperature control probe in the back that also houses the overtemp probe. We've got our independent thermocouples are coming through the wall. There's 4 of those here, type T, labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. The gate valve's in the back, and this port here is our RGA, which is slightly recessed, so you don't accidentally hit it. And the gauge port is up here. That was our pressure relief, emergency pressure release, and the feed through. The upper right is a available port for you, and then down below the shelf is where our platen connects to.